Welcome to Cambridge House Live. I'm Bridgitte Anderson. I am joined by Cheryl Brandon, Portfolio Manager with Waterton Global. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Give me your perspective on where the junior mining sector is right now.
I think the junior mining sector has had a very difficult 3 quarters. We've seen a lot of stock prices pull back as a result of the difficulties that we've seen globally. Commodity prices, however, still remain at somewhat elevated levels, especially on the precious metals side. We view this as an opportunity to buy equities and make investments in that space. As well, we think that there will be a recovery in 2012 once the actual equity prices begin to reflect the commodity prices.
I'm going to come back to your outlook for 2012, but let's talk about some of the challenges. What do you think some of the challenges that are facing the junior mining sector?
I think one of the biggest challenges currently is access to capital. We've, as I said, seen a pullback in the equity prices, and with all the difficulties that the Eurozone has been experiencing, there's difficulty with accessing debt capital. Waterton Global actually provides customized debt solutions for junior mining companies and mid-tier mining companies. So we are positioned to help companies at this point in time access funds to move forward with either building out their mines once they've made a production decision, expanding their projects, or looking to do acquisitions in the current environment.
So when you're looking at some of the players in the sector then, how do you evaluate these companies?
There are 3 key criteria that we focus on. First and foremost, quality management is extremely important to us. When you have a quality management team in place, they're able to attract quality talent to the company. We can build long-term relationships with them, and it's one of the most crucial things. Secondly, operating in safe and stable jurisdictions. Our primary focus as a senior lender is to provide capital to companies that are operating in first world countries. So that's extremely important. And the third criteria is the asset quality. We look at things like economic and technical analysis to determine the asset quality. So for example, we look at metallurgical recovery rates, we focus on internal rates of returns, cost of capital, and operating metrics.
So when you're talking about jurisdictions, you take a really hard look at some of the geopolitical aspects.
Yeah, and I think there's a few things that we focus on. The geopolitical aspect is important, as well as the ability for companies to permit their assets into production. You know, you see a lot of difficulties in certain parts of the world accessing permits. We've seen some recently in Argentina where permits were granted and taken away. We've seen difficulties in other parts of the world. So, you know, not only the geopolitical side, which obviously is very important, but also the companies actually being able to go into production, operating with certain royalty rates that they have comfort in. All these things are extremely important to us.
What about commodities? Let's talk about where you said that you saw some strength in the commodities. So talk to me about that.
Specifically, I think on the precious metal side, until we get clarity on the Eurozone, we're going to continue to see some strength with precious metals. So we're most bullish on gold and silver. Base metals, I think it may take a bit of time, not until maybe the second half of 2012 we'll start to see a recovery. But in general, our view long term is that we are extremely bullish on commodities. We think this cycle is nowhere near the end, and we're continuing to invest a lot of capital into this space.
So your outlook for 2012 then for the junior mining sector?
I think for the junior mining sector, it's going to take a bit of time for the actual equities to realize the price appreciation as a result of strength in commodities. As I said, you know, when you do not have clarity globally, it's very difficult for risk money to put to make investments into this space. So once we do get a little bit of clarity, I believe in the second half of 2012, we'll have a great resource market.
Great. Thanks very much for joining me, Cheryl. Appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you very much for having me.